faithfully to order tonight, and appreciate everyone being here. Just a reminder, if you have your cell phones on ring, if you check, make sure they're on vibrate.
And Mr. Chair, before we start the substantive part of the meeting, we did have a motion to come out of closed session by Mr. Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now for the certification. Whereas the Broadband Authority convened a closed meeting pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Bedford County Broadband Authority that such a closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Bedford County Broadband Authority does hereby certify that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting was heard, discussed, or considered by the Bedford County Broadband Authority. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes,
So certified.
thank you. All right, next we have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Next, stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you've had a chance to look at the agenda. Does anyone want to change anything?
Mr. Chairman, if it's in agreement with everyone, could we move the board comments up to follow citizens' comments this evening?
Okay. Everybody agree with that? Say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the citizens' comment period. That's 15 minutes. Each person will be given 3 minutes to talk. And just want to remind you, I don't see anybody here that I think would be speaking again on the First Amendment. But if you have spoke on the First Amendment in the previous couple of meetings, you can't speak on that again tonight. If you haven't spoke on it, you're welcome to speak on it. So, citizens' comment period, you can speak on anything you want to other than what's on the agenda. And I don't have anyone signed up.
Looks like you've got one over there.
But I have Isaiah Wright, but he signed up for 2 meetings in a row. So I think this might be left over from last week.
I think you just got a lifetime membership.
Okay, anybody else that I don't have signed up would like to speak? All right, not seeing any, I close the citizens' comment period. Now, next on the agenda is the board's comment period. Anyone from the board want to comment on
Anything on General Assembly actions? I understand that Kathy Byron's bill isn't going forward.
Yeah, the Kathy Byron's bill regarding distance off of the shore at Smith Mountain Lake to coincide with what the wakeboarding association's 200 feet, basically. It went down, did not survive third reading this evening.
I was prepared to discuss this. I'm still receiving calls. There's a political campaign out there, and I guess people are being misled to think that somehow I control this board, and evidently we're a 4-3 vote, and if I would switch my vote, we would somehow stop Governor Northam's shutdown orders. And unfortunately, people people don't know any better, and so they think that somehow that's factual. So that's disappointing that, that there's a lot of misinformation out there, but just so anyone in the audience who doesn't understand that already, this board doesn't have the authority to do what you've been led to think that we have the authority to do. And we're, I believe, unanimous in that at this point. It's not a 4-3 decision, it's not a 5-2, it's not even 6-1, it's 7-0. And so this is unfortunately, the nullify Northam thing is a political stunt to try to gain political favor and capitalize on the fact that we're all angry with the governor's shutdown orders. And I, for one, have been arguing about this for many months and using my voice as a member of the Board of Supervisors to argue against it and how the governor's orders are unconstitutional. That just because they're unconstitutional doesn't give me some special privileges to nullify them. The avenue to do that is through the courts, unfortunately. If we had the authority to do it, I'm confident this board would have done it a long time ago. We are a conservative board. We're one of the most conservative in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And, you know, it's unfortunate that someone who has political aspirations will try to capitalize on people's anger towards the governor to try to disparage this board and me in particular. But that's just the facts, and if anybody would like to discuss it with me, I'd be more than happy to discuss it. I've discussed it with people all over the county, in fact, all over the state.
Anybody else? Got any comments? Okay, we move on to the consent agenda. Considerations of a resolution for heavy equipment repair and maintenance service, resolution R012521-01. I'm assuming we do B with that, right? Consideration of a resolution accepting federal award funding for the Southern Virginia Internet Crime Against Children's Task Force, resolution R01252102. This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. All right. Number 7 is approval of the minutes. Did anyone have any corrections or on the minutes?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one correction. I've already notified Ms. Luckett of it. Line 286, she just had Glenn as a first name and didn't have any other information. But he actually spoke earlier in the minutes. Line 286 is where it has his whole name. So line 354 that just has Glenn should reflect that it was Glenn Thomas that spoke. That was the only correction I saw.
Okay, can I have a motion to someone to approve the minutes as the changes were expressed?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have no public hearing tonight. Action and discussion items. Consideration. A resolution reclassifying the existing advanced life support paramedic to establish a trained officer position. Resolution R01252103. Mr. Judge, presentation.
Mr. Chairman, Madam, Gentlemen, the matter before you is articulated pretty well in the minutes from the Personnel Committee. The Public Safety Committee had an opportunity to discuss the matter as well. And I think we've done a pretty good job with both committees articulating the opportunity that we have before us. It came to our attention at one point that there was an additional FTE that was a sole ALS provider without a partner, without an EMT partner. We always have to have two people together. And that this position has been available within our pay plan. It's currently funded. And we have a very long-standing need for a training officer, someone to fill the position of training officer. A lot of what we do is outreach to the community, to the volunteer entities, to our career staff, the comm center, and any number of other groups. A lot of our training goes on at our headquarters and training facility, as well as our fireground, and then each of the different 22, 24 stations across the county, various types of training go on in those stations and at our central location. Our world is ever changing. 2 years ago, we didn't know what COVID was. Now we're dealing with it. We do a fair amount of teaching and presentation and document production in that regard. We are the state-appointed training entity for the county. We schedule courses, promote courses, take funding for courses. Our department is the only one in the county that has the authority to do that through the state. We're that focal point for providing the training. And we provide the training for multi-company operations and multi-company drills, which was so apparent with our recent May Day episode we had in May, where the need to have companies come together, not just one individual agency training. A working structure fire gets 4 fire companies in Bedford County and 2 EMS agencies. We have working fires all the time. If the agencies aren't training together collaboratively and having that understanding across the board how the others are operating and what the standards are, right? We do certainly respect, the autonomy and individuality. At the end of the day, the fire could not care less who you are or where you're from. The fire, the emergency is going to react the way that it reacts. And we have to have that consensus amongst our training and the collaboration amongst our departments. So those are a number of areas we've discussed it in committee. And Mr. Chair, I'll be glad to take any questions that you may have. And again, this is a position that's currently been funded in our pay plan. We're looking for a reclassification.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Jones?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Jones, did you say that this person would be available to go to the outlying halls in the county to provide training so that, let's say, someone who lives as far away as Shady Grove or down in Huddleston doesn't have, or up in Big Island or even Boonesboro, have to travel to Bedford for this training?
A component of our training is if an individual company or squad requests a specific course or specific program, that it can be held in that station. And we do some of that at this point. There are other courses for the sheer economy of scale, such as our Firefighter 1 course, which starts tomorrow night. Has 25 students in it from all across the county, a waiting list of 12, and we'll draw on instructors from across the county. There's great sense and economy of scale to have that as a central area. EMT courses, advanced cardiac life support, and the like. But there are other courses that are held in the stations, and then there's company drill, which the individual companies can sponsor and have specialty instructors, which we provide to go into the company and work on a specific area that the individuals have detected as being a need. But again, that has to be requested. We don't force our training or force our staff onto any entity.
As I understand it, in the county, currently at the career halls, they're paying for online training, and it doesn't require to have a paid staff member who gets vacation benefits and everything associated with having a full-time position. And is this really something that's needful? Because as I understand it, in Bedford County, we have, 6 rescue units, but from what I've learned in talking to 3 of our volunteer chiefs, is that we're short-staffed for EMS paramedics. And my question is, why do we need a full-time training position when we don't have the staff for it currently? And you could get fire training I've spent my week looking into this, and it's the fire training and 101 or whatever is not that complicated. That's relatively simply done.
What is the question, sir?
My question is I have learned in talking to some of these chiefs that we have a shortage of paramedics in Bedford County. And right now, our current paramedics in Bedford County, to be simply put, are overworked and underpaid, and especially when we compare to other surrounding counties. And are we talking about taking from these paramedics and even reducing the number of paid paramedics on staff by one to fill this training position? Or are you talking about adding a training position and hiring someone from outside?
This is a position that is currently classified as a full-time equivalency for an advanced life support firefighter, but this one position does not have a partner. It doesn't have an equal individual to work with within the pay plan. So our proposal is that we reclassify this to the position of training officer, which is much needed and certainly long overdue when you look at a system our size with the complexity that we have. And you're absolutely right. We do not have an adequate number of paramedic firefighters and EMTs. You are absolutely right that they are underpaid, and you are absolutely right that they are leaving to go to other jurisdictions, and that is primarily based on salary and benefits and some other issues, and we try everything that we can to meet those needs. But this business is ever changing, and for Bedford County, this is new. A department that's only been in existence for about 15 years doesn't really have the depth and the roots of perhaps your sheriff's office or the town PD. And these are the steps that we're attempting to take to shore up our system, our volunteer and our career system, with things such as a training officer. I can I will challenge.
Why do we need a training officer when first what we need is we need to look at the compensation packages for our paramedics? And then we also need to hopefully bring some new paramedics in to help take some of the load off the existing ones. And so instead of losing people, we can actually create an atmosphere where we can retain and train newer people. And currently, our training system, again, with I talked to 3 fire chiefs today, and every one of them said they're using, they do send, some of them send their people out, and they have funding that they're utilizing out of their resources. That a lot of it comes from the county. A lot of it comes from money that they generate on their own, including from handling their own calls. And they're getting their training done. And I'm suggesting to you that if we're going to take, money to pay for a new position when we really are short-staffed, to me that doesn't make sense.
Well, sir, this is a rather complex issue that can't be summed up in a phone call or two. I will submit that Firefighter 1 training, which is our basic academy, about 140 hours, is not simple, nor is it easy to conduct. It requires a large number of individuals, a lot of equipment, and many resources, and that is not something that's done on a computer or done in an individual station. That's done in an academy format. There is great value to online training in very certain and specific areas, even down to the point that it gives structured reporting for ISO ratings, for insurance ratings, and things along those lines. But at the end of the day, a profession that is dangerous and requires people to fight fire and extricate people from cars and things like that is not something that's learned on a computer. It is truly learned working with others who have the gray hair.
I didn't say that all the learning is done on a computer, Chief.
Bob, did he answer your question?
I guess it's the best answer I'm going to get.
All right, any other questions for the,
Mr. Chair, I don't really have a question, but I just want to give a little bit of clarity. This training position, we're not taking away a position and using and doing a training position. This is already in the fire and rescue's budget. And it's a needed position. I think there's been some miscommunication that we're at removing paramedic position. That's not what we're doing. We also come to find out that there's also 3 other paramedic positions in the budget now, and you're gonna be working to fill those two. So actually, we're adding, it's already in the budget, but we're basically bringing them out of the hibernation, dusting them off, and we're gonna utilize them now. So we're accomplishing both. This is not an either or, we are doing it all. So we're trying to do the training position, which is needed. For those that aren't interested, they certainly don't have to take advantage of that position, but I think it can, if some thoughts put into it, you can have your centralized training in the county, and we can also go around to the different agencies and provide training there. So it's a work in progress. We're not going to cure it all at a snap of a finger, but this is not an either or. This is a training position which is badly needed, according to the volunteers that I've talked to, and we also need to bring out those paramedic positions and get, because we do need some relief, and we're trying to address it all. So we're not saying that if you have this, you can't have that. So just like there's been some miscommunications, I too have talked to some fire chiefs about this topic, and there's definitely some miscommunication.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
on that note, and for what it's worth, I'd just like to throw out Stewartsville Chambersburg Fire Department. I've talked to heard from Chief Seth Webb this afternoon right before the meeting to confirm with me that he is 100% in support of hiring this county training officer, that he thinks it's a high need for it.
And I would add, Mr. Chair, that I talked to Monty Coleman from Forest, and he's conveyed the same information to me as well.
I have met numerous times with Manita Rescue, Manita Fire, Saunders, and Huddleston, and all have indicated this would be one of the key things to help drive recruiting more volunteers, which are our backbone in this county right now. I don't know, if they disappeared today, we would be broke trying to get this done. But this has consistently been one of the asks from those departments, so I support it.
Okay, if there's no more questions, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt Resolution R012521-03.
All right, heard the motion, Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Parker,
Yes.
that's all I said.
What about me?
What about you?
Oh, good, good. I wasn't there. John Sharp,
Yes.
chair votes yes. I'll say, three of us.
Great.
All right.
Not only am I not chairman, I'm not even.
He moved you to the end.
Like I said, I don't.
Next we have
this part.
consideration of a resolution in the personnel policy to enact a leave multiplier for fire and rescue personnel, resolution R1252104. And Chief Jack Jones will present that.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this matter, we've had some great discussion with several committees about this. And this is a huge, impactful opportunity for us to do really some great for our people. And I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Johnston, who's been the clerk of the works on much of this, to come and take you through the process and be able to answer any of the questions about the specifics. Of course, I'll just be a phone call away.
Good evening. We presented to the Public Safety Committee in the fall and the Personnel Committee just a couple of weeks ago. For fire and rescue personnel who all work 24-hour shifts, it's common practice to have an adopted leave multiplier. And what that does is it allows for a multiplied leave compared to 40-hour-a-week employees. So as it currently stands, our 24-hour employees are accruing leave at the same rate as our 8-hour employees. So for a 24-hour employee to take one shift off, they have to work 3 months. And so it's common practice in fire and EMS to have an adopted leave multiplier, and we are one of the only organizations in the Commonwealth that does not have a leave multiplier. It's one thing that we commonly hear from our personnel and from individuals who are interested in coming to work for Bedford County when they compare us to other similar organizations, Campbell County, Amherst, the city of Lynchburg. it's prohibitive to our recruiting efforts and also to retention. So we would like to be more competitive for the folks, the paramedics particularly, that we're trying to attract to our agency, and also maintain some retention of the fine individuals that we already have working in our organization. So we presented to the Personnel Committee in taking into consideration the leave multipliers that are utilized in our surrounding jurisdictions, also taking into account how our leave differs from those areas as a whole in the county, and attempting to be more competitive. We have proposed a leave multiplier for annual leave of 1.8 and a sick leave multiplier of 1.4, which will make us far more competitive. That we'll still have one neighboring jurisdiction that will have a higher leave accrual than we do, but we feel very strongly about the county that we serve and what we have to offer, and this will certainly get us a lot closer for our employees. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Have you guys talked this over with some of your staff?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's been an ongoing conversation with the staff for a number of years.
So you're getting good feedback on this, I hope.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution R012521-04, consideration of a resolution to amend the personnel policy to enact the leave multiplier for fire and rescue personnel.
Okay, you heard the motion from Mrs. Parker. Mrs. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
I'm confused because there's two empty chairs up there. I'm not sure who I'm calling. I'll look. You get the unanimous vote.
Thank you.
I'm gonna write down everybody's name. Read. Next, we have a consideration of resolution for the purchase of infectious disease equipment in ambulances, resolution R012521-05.
Once again, this is a matter that we've had some discussion about, and the great opportunity is there's CARES Act money, which is specifically dedicated for projects similar to this, and then some of our state funds, which is our for Life funds. This opportunity will improve the environment in the ambulances where our career folks and our volunteers spend so much of their time, as do our citizens. Chief Blankenship has been the clerk of the works and works with our vendors consistently on getting our trucks designed and on the road to provide the service that we need. So she's going to take us through this process.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we were able to receive CARES Act funding back earlier in 2020 in order to provide, it was to cover lost revenue and/or healthcare expenses. One of the stipulations was that we could not bill for services to the residents. So in other words, we could only bill to insurance companies and so forth. But we currently only soft bill, so no resident in Bedford County gets a bill. So that was one of the stipulations in order to get that money. We received $88,625. And with that, we want to establish in each medic unit at least a minimum of one medic unit per volunteer agency, which is 9 units currently at this time, and 6 of the career staff units to install ultraviolet lighting, which is ceiling mounted. It'll be for disinfection of the units and so forth. To install one of those into those units. And then also there is, for 6 of the units, would be to install, it's a port system. So basically this is a plumbing that would be installed also into the medic truck. And then there's a standalone decontamination system. So basically think of it as just a standalone unit. You then plug it up to the truck. It aerosolizes the decontamination, the disinfectant, and so therefore it's cleaning the unit and decontaminating it. So that is pretty much the gist of the request here tonight. Any questions?
From the board? Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we adopt Resolution R012521-05.
All right, you heard the motion, Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yeah.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Next, we have a consideration of a resolution accepting the final project and releasing retainage associated with Phase 2 broadband completed by Zytel LLC, Resolution R01252106. And Amanda's going to present that.
Yeah, so this project was part of the Phase 2 broadband initiative, which was approved as part of the CARES funding allocation through a competitive RFP process. Zytel was awarded a contract of $1.2 million, which was offset by a state grant of $564,000, which was a very substantial reduction in the county's share. So as was mentioned earlier during the work session, this project has been completed. 48 miles of fiber have been run at 4 different locations in the county. 41 customers are live currently, with 100 customers ready to be in queue by next week. This resolution will accept the project and release the final retainage, which is $61,725.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
everything's in the ground. It's,
Above ground or underground. So it's a combination, primarily above ground.
but it's gonna be below ground, or is it gonna remain above ground?
Above
Some's
ground.
aerial, some's,
yeah,
Sub's on
fibers,
poles.
some on poles.
But it's all in its permanent location now. We don't have a situation in which there's still work to be done.
Correct. It's complete, and we received the final issuance from George Candelius, our project manager, project consultant, I'm sorry, that should be in your packets, who certified that the project has been fully complete.
Does that jive with what you were talking about earlier?
on Saturday at Cedar Key, there was still a fair amount of fiber laying on top of the ground. The machinery was there to bury, but it was still on top of the ground.
So I don't know if I can speak to that. From my understanding, the project is complete. There might be additional projects that Zytel has undertaken outside of the county project.
There was an issue,
Robert, do you
there
know
was an
anything?
issue down at Cedar Key with the older sewer system that there were no records for, and the contractor had to spend extra time finding out where sewer lines were running that were running under the street, on the roads back there. And if there's lines laying on the ground, that would be why.
Then, you know, until it's in the ground, I'm not sure we can, I mean, this is a situation in which George has signed off, but has he gone around and actually inspected it? I mean, if I've got a supervisor that saw it with his own eyes, sitting on top of the ground, I mean, I'm
Well,
all for paying
sure.
somebody, but I'd like the project to be done, not substantially done.
Well, absolutely, and this is new information for me. We do have the certificate of full completion and final acceptance stating that Cedar Key, in addition to the 3 other sites, were complete as of January 11th. But if you all want to table this, I can circle back around with our project consultant and with Zytel and bring it back to you at the next meeting.
Well, we have certification as of January the 11th, and we've got eyes on the ground as of this past Saturday. Otherwise, then I have to question the certification.
I would think it'd be appropriate to postpone a vote on this to the next meeting and get some clarity on that.
Yep.
Is everyone else okay with that? I want to get the gentleman paid, but I'd like, I'd like to make sure the project is complete. That's the
Yep,
whole reason why
absolutely.
there's retainage.
Yep.
I think it'd be irresponsible to move forward with something when the certification indicated one thing and the eyes on the ground indicated something else. But like I said, it's come to my knowledge that the reason that fiber hasn't been run on the ground is because there's no record of the sewer system down there, and they ran a lot of those sewer lines under the road. And so when you go to trenching to put fiber, to put that cable in the ground, you don't want to tear up a community sewer system.
Yeah, absolutely, and so there's no fault implied here at all.
No.
Absolutely, I
It's a
get it.
matter, other than maybe the certification that it's complete, that doesn't seem to be worth what it's printed on.
Absolutely.
That's why I questioned it, because I drove the Stanton River route, the Cedar Key, and the Diamond Hill, and I followed it all, but the Cedar Key was, still had a good mile or so left to bury.
So staff would not have brought this forward if we knew that was the case, so
Okay, well,
sorry
this-
about that.
Like I said, it was just
We're gonna
Saturday.
table this until the 8th, but how are we gonna know that the next certification is real?
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't have to check behind the person
Exactly.
certifying.
Well, I may not have put our heads together on this yet, but I imagine we'll have greater conversation with Zytel ourselves as to their completion, and we may have to put our own eyes on
Did
it.
George sign off on it?
Correct.
Need to have a conversation with them also.
That's correct.
Yes.
All right, so this is tabled till February 8th. All right, consideration of a resolution accepting final project and releasing retainings associated with Phase 2 broadband completed by B2X Online Incorporation, Resolution RO 1252107.
Okay, so this is another project as part of Phase 2 of the broadband initiative, also awarded through CARES dollars with B2X. The total amount of the contract was $112,202. What they did was B2X installed enhanced equipment on 5 sites that they already had across the county that do not require line-of-sight technology to provide service. As of today, they already have 52 new customers live at these sites with an expected total of 520 new households that will hook up throughout this project. The remaining retainage associated is $3,733.50, and you do have a copy of the certificate of full completion and final acceptance from our project consultant in your packet, dated the 31st of December, 2020.
Do we have any reason to think this isn't completed?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I know I've had email exchanges with the CEO of B2X, and I mean this equipment's up there, and they're enrolling customers.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
They've been completed for quite a while.
I can only speak for the Johnson Mountain Tower that it's up and onboarding customers. That's the only one I checked on.
All 5 sites have new customers enrolled, so that 52 customers, the CEO, Warren Kane, did provide a breakdown by site, and so there are customers at each of those 5 sites.
All right, I have a motion, please.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve, this is resolution R 012521-07.
You heard the motion by Mr. Sharp. Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Tuck,
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. All right, next is a consideration of a resolution opposing the charging of fees by the Department of Wildlife Resources for use of boat assessed sites in the Commonwealth. Resolution R12521. And Robert, you gonna handle that?
Yeah, fairly quickly, this was brought up at our last board meeting by, I think, Supervisor Johnson, and because there's been some concerns and complaints regarding local boaters and outfitters, and it's not just local, it's really regional for any state body of water, where the Department of Wildlife Resources has established a new permitting fee in order to utilize the boat ramps and access the waters. And the fees are $4 a day or $23 a year. And what's happening is, these are one of those things that are passed by the General Assembly and adopted by the Department of Wildlife Resources and isn't very well communicated until the 11th hour. And, outfitter companies, tourism-based businesses they're concerned that this additional fee is going to potentially impact their businesses that are associated with, and it's going to increase costs for them as well. Additionally, there may be some concern that people or boaters may just ignore the already built boat ramps and just start inputting boats wherever they please along different bodies of water that could create erosion and other environmental concerns, and parking alongside of roads and so forth and so on. So this has been an unpopular fee amongst again, a lot of our regional outfitters and tourism-based businesses. I know of at least a half a dozen local governments within our region have passed a similar resolution opposing these fees. And what we're asking is that Department of Wildlife Resources kind of go back to the drawing board and come up with a kind of more efficient and effective way to, if they want to have a fee, in order to do that, that's a little bit easier to access. I know in researching this, I decided I wanted myself, how do I actually get this permit? And it's quite a chore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not something that you just get real easily. It takes a while to go through all the menus and set up your own account with DWR and so forth and so on. And if everybody's having to do that just to launch a boat, that's a bureaucratic impediment to utilizing the state waters. So that's what. So anyways, this resolution is before you to oppose this fee and encourage Department of Wildlife Resources to seek other alternatives.
Any questions?
I have a comment about it, Mr. Chairman. This bill was not the intent, this was not the main thrust of this bill when it was passed. It was buried in a bill by Chris Head, Delegate Head, who, my understanding is, really didn't even realize what the implications were when it was hidden in here. And Delegate Austin and Chris Hurst are trying to do the maneuvering to get this removed, and they could use our support in getting it removed, getting it reversed. I think it's a very good bill.
Mr. Chair, can I vote that we approve resolution RO 12521?
Yes, sir.
That's really.
0A. You heard the motion by Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
Mrs. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Consideration of a resolution authorizing initiation of legal proceedings regarding Bedford County Broadband Initiative, Resolution RO 12521 Code 9. And this will be presented by Attorney Patrick County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just very short and to the point, the resolution before you authorizes staff and council to file necessary proceedings in court to protect the county's interests regarding some shortfalls in the broadband project.
Okay, any questions? All right, hearing no questions, would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve resolution R 012521-09.
Okay, you heard the motion by Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mrs. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Broadband, excuse me, board committee reports.
I think we already covered those as part of the action items.
Okay. Board comments, we've done that already. Board appointments. Ricky Wilkerson is accepting appointment back to District 5 on the Board of Zoning. I think that's the only one. Anybody have any?
Supervisor Bansley asked me to present Mark Martin to represent District 3 on the redistricting committee. And I would also like to enter Kent Roby for District 2.
Can we vote for all of these at the same time? Is that okay?
appropriate.
Are we gonna do A, B, and C all at one time? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Everybody said aye.
How do you know?
I heard. County Administrator report.
Just a reminder that the next board meeting on February 8th, we will be located in the town council chambers. So we've done our scouting trip, and town has been very gracious and going to be very helpful with us regarding that. So hopefully it'll feel very comfortable for our proceedings starting that evening. One thing we may want to consider is so far what we have scheduled right now is our evenings that have the regular meetings, the ones that we televise or on YouTube, and those work sessions that evening are all at the town council chambers. We have a number of budget work sessions scheduled in February and March that as of right now they're scheduled to be downstairs in the downstairs conference room. But if we end up wanting to choose to relocate those to the town council chambers, we'll have to, well, first of all, we'll have to see if it's available, but we can determine that at a later date if we want to. But anyways, February 8th will be at the town council chambers, and this room will start the renovation project, I think, later this week.
What do we do if we have a closed doors?
We have two options. Either number one, we can just ask everybody to leave the main council chambers and wait for that to occur. Or number two, there's a fairly large, there's a large enough conference room on the first floor of the town hall that can easily accommodate a closed session. If we want to adjourn to that room, we could do that. It's probably, I don't know if it's twice as big, but certainly 1.5 times as big as the conference room on the other side of this wall.
Well, by the time we have the budget public hearing, will we be back here?
I think the contract is for 100 days, so if they're starting this week, we'll have to see how the project progresses. We've worked with the town to at least through the end of April and perhaps the first meeting in May, but we're hoping by the end of April, we're hoping by the beginning of May, we'll be back in this room.
Well, if we have to have the budget public hearing, then it might be, well, did we say that facility is a little larger than this?
It is, that they have they accommodate right at, they accommodate right at about 150 people, so, twice as big as ours.
Okay. Still hard to believe.
You wanna take us on down to the adjournment?
Well, county attorney might have some.
No report at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sorry.
You sure you're an attorney? Get nothing to say?
Nothing else other than schedules.
Next meeting is February 8th at 5, work session. Regular meeting at 7. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
Just